You know that moment where you're scrolling, and you see a group photo, someone's birthday dinner, somebody's cabin trip, somebody's random Tuesday that somehow looks like a movie, and you don't even feel jealous at first. You feel confused, like, when did everyone quietly get assigned a friend group, and I didn't? So you keep scrolling, and your thumb moves, but your chest gets heavier, because the truth is, you can't even remember the last time you got a text that wasn't about work, logistics, or somebody needing something. And when you do get a message, you feel this quick little spike of hope. Then you open it. And it's just, what time are we meeting tomorrow? You put your phone down, and the room gets louder in its own way. The refrigerator hum, the neighbor's footsteps, the faint sound of a show you're not even watching. And you realize something that feels embarrassing to admit out loud. You don't feel lonely like you did when you were younger. Back then, loneliness was dramatic. After 30, it's quieter. It's not the ache of being left out. It's the slow fear that maybe you're becoming the kind of person people don't naturally include anymore. You start telling yourself you're just busy. You start calling it peace. You start pretending you like your own company. And some of that might even be true. But late at night, when you're honest, there's this other thought. A darker one. That maybe you missed the window. And you don't say that to anyone, because it sounds pathetic. Because you're supposed to be grown now. You're supposed to have your life together. But what you actually have is a calendar full of responsibilities and a social life that feels like it's been buffering for years. And you start wondering if something is wrong with you. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why making friends after 30 feels so unnatural, so tiring, and sometimes even humiliating, even when you're a good person with a real heart. And more importantly, you'll understand what's actually happening inside you when you try. Because it's not just hard to meet people. That's the story everybody tells. The normal story is, after 30, you're busy. Work gets intense, people get married, kids happen, everyone moves, schedules don't match, so friendship becomes inconvenient. And yes, that's real. But if it was only about time, you'd still feel connected. You'd still feel like you had people. You'd still feel like the world had room for you. The part nobody says out loud is that after 30, the real enemy isn't busyness. It's the way your identity hardens. It's the way you become more you and less flexible. Not in a bad way, in a survival way. Because you've been trained quietly, for years, to build a life that looks stable from the outside. And stability has a hidden cost. It makes you careful. It makes you efficient. It makes you emotionally edited. You start showing people the version of you that won't cause problems, the version that won't need anything, the version that won't risk rejection. And that version is not easy to befriend. Not because it's fake, but because it's protected. There's a psychological concept that explains this without turning you into a diagnosis. It's attachment, not who you date. Attachment is the part of your nervous system that decides if closeness is safe. When you're younger, you're basically forced to practice closeness all the time. School, dorms, shared boredom, shared drama, shared time. After 30, you're not forced. So your nervous system defaults to what it learned. Protect your energy. Avoid awkwardness. Don't look needy. Don't chase. And slowly, without even noticing, you start living like someone who doesn't need anyone, even when you do. So let's talk about the patterns that make adult loneliness feel so personal and so impossible to fix. Because it isn't just that you can't find friends. It's that something in you flinches when you try. You might notice that meeting people isn't actually the hardest part. You can meet people anywhere. Work, gym, a friend's partner's friend, a class, online. The hardest part is what comes after. That strange space where you think, should I text them? And then you don't. Because you don't want to be the one who wants more. You don't want to be the one who reaches first. You don't want to be the one who tries and gets ignored. So you tell yourself, if they wanted to, they would. And it sounds like self-respect, but sometimes it's fear wearing a suit. Here's what's happening psychologically. After 30, you've collected evidence. Not just memories evidence. Evidence of people fading out. Evidence of friendships that turned conditional. Evidence of being the one who cared more. Evidence of being the backup friend. Evidence of inviting people and watching them not show up the same way you would. So your brain starts protecting you from hope. Because hope is expensive. Hope is the thing that makes disappointment hurt. So you become a person who doesn't get excited too early. You become a person who doesn't expect much. And that reduces pain. But it also reduces connection. It's like trying to keep your hands clean by never touching anything. You can do it, but you'll never feel warmth, and you'll start calling the cold normal. You might notice that your standards for friendship went up and down at the same time. Up because you don't have patience for shallow. Down because you're tired and you'll accept scraps just to feel included. So you end up in this weird middle. You don't want small talk, but you don't know how to ask for depth. You want real closeness, but you're terrified of seeming intense. So you perform chill. And you keep relationships at a safe temperature. Not too hot, not too cold, just lukewarm. And the more you do that, the more you start to believe the lie that you're too different. That nobody gets you. But sometimes it's not that nobody gets you, it's that nobody has been allowed to. Because the version of you that you show people is the version that can survive being misunderstood, not the version that needs to be held. Most people like you don't feel lonely because they're antisocial. They feel lonely because they became emotionally self-sufficient too early. Maybe you were the kid who handled things on your own. Maybe you were the friend who listened but didn't share. Maybe you were the one who didn't want to be a burden. So you learned how to be fine, even when you weren't. And now, as an adult, you're very good at being fine. You can be fine at work, fine on dates, fine at family gatherings, fine at parties. You can be fine while your inner life quietly dries up. And nobody interrupts it, because from the outside, you look stable. But stability isn't the same as being seen. And being seen is what friendship actually is. Not being liked. Not being invited. Being seen. Here's the confronting part. After 30, your life becomes less random, which sounds good, until you realize randomness is how friendships used to happen. When you were younger, you were constantly trapped in the same place as people. You had time you didn't plan, boredom you didn't optimize, long, pointless hours where you could just exist around someone. Friendship is built in the boring parts, not the highlight reel parts. After 30, everything is scheduled. Even fun is scheduled. So friendship has to compete with your exhaustion. And exhaustion is ruthless. Exhaustion makes you cancel. Exhaustion makes you isolate. Exhaustion makes you choose your couch over a new person you might not even like. And then you wake up 6 months later and realize you haven't formed anything new. Not because you didn't want it, because your nervous system chose safety. Because your brain said, we can't risk another disappointment right now. So you shrink your world, just a little, over and over, until one day you're sitting in your apartment on a Friday night, telling yourself you needed rest. But what you really needed was a witness. Someone to send a stupid message to. Someone to say, come over. Someone to know you're weak, without you having to translate yourself from scratch. You might notice something else after 30. Friendships start feeling like dating. Not in a cute way. In a humiliating way. You replay texts. You wonder if you said something weird. You wonder if they secretly didn't like you. You wonder if you're trying too hard. You wonder if you're not trying hard enough. It's exhausting, because you're not just looking for a friend, you're looking for proof. Proof that you're still socially chosen. And that's a dangerous place to build connection from. Because when friendship becomes a measure of your worth, every silence feels personal. Every slow reply feels like rejection. Every we should hang out sometime feels like a test you failed. And here's the part that's hard to admit. Sometimes adult loneliness isn't about not having people, it's about not trusting people. You've seen how quickly priorities change. You've seen how friendships get traded in for romance, or status, or convenience. You've seen people disappear when life gets messy. So now, even when someone is kind, a part of you keeps distance. You don't fully lean in. You don't fully invest. Because you're already imagining the ending. That's not you being negative. That's you being experienced. But experience can turn into a cage. It teaches you to pre-grieve relationships you haven't even built yet, like packing up a room you never lived in. You might notice that you're always the strong one, the one with the advice, the one who knows how to make other people comfortable, the one who can ask questions and carry a conversation and seem socially fluent. But the moment someone asks you, "How are you really?" your throat tightens, because you don't have a clean answer. Because the real answer would make things real, and real means vulnerable, and vulnerable means you might need something, and needing something means you might be disappointed. So you smile, you say, "I'm good," and you move on, and you wonder why nobody feels close to you. This is where adult loneliness gets cruel. You're not lonely because you're unlovable, you're lonely because you became expertly livable with. You became easy, low maintenance, undemanding, and the sad twist is, those qualities make you convenient, but not intimate. Like a beautifully furnished hotel room, people can stay there, but it never becomes home. Now let's talk about comparison. Because after 30, comparison gets sharper. It's not just, they're popular. It's, they have people. It's group chats, it's weddings, it's baby showers, it's inside jokes that have history. And you start feeling like you're watching a life you were supposed to have, but didn't. Not because you did anything wrong, because you were surviving. Because you were building stability, because you were healing, because you were working, because you were keeping your head above water. And when you finally looked up, everyone had already formed their circles. So you try to enter late. And late entry feels awkward, like walking into a party where the music has been playing for hours. You can still dance, but you feel watched. You feel behind. And that feeling doesn't come from the world. It comes from the story you're telling yourself. The story is, real friendship is something you either already have or you missed. And that story makes every attempt feel doomed. So you stop attempting quietly. You stop asking. You stop initiating. You stop joining. And then you say, it's just hard after 30. But the deeper truth is, it's hard after 30 because you don't have the same permission to be messy. When you're 19, you can be awkward and it's endearing. When you're 33, you think awkward is evidence. Evidence that you're weird. Evidence that you're socially behind. Evidence that you're not a people person. So you become hyper-aware of how you come off. You monitor yourself. You edit yourself in real time. And it kills the spontaneity that friendship needs. Friendship is not built through perfection. It's built through small, repeated human moments. A dumb joke that lands, a late-night rant, a shared inconvenience, a moment where you don't perform, you just exist. So here's the epiphany that usually changes how you see this. What you thought was weakness, this sensitivity, this hesitation, this fear of being the one who cares more, it's not proof you're broken. It's proof you learned that closeness has consequences. Maybe not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but in 1,000 tiny ways. The friend who made you feel stupid for being excited. The group that punished you for being honest. The people who only wanted the entertaining version of you. So your nervous system did what it was supposed to do, it adapted. It made you careful. It made you self-contained. It made you harder to hurt. But it also made you harder to reach. And that's the trade. So what do you do with that, without turning your life into some exhausting self-improvement project? 3 simple actions. Not join 10 clubs. Not be more confident. Not put yourself out there like it's a button you press. First, stop waiting for chemistry and start looking for repetition. Adult friendship doesn't usually arrive as lightning, it arrives as a slow build. Same place, same time, same faces. Your brain needs exposure to feel safe, not one intense hangout. Consistency, it's not romantic, it's how trust is built. Second, practice tiny honesty. Not trauma dumping, not confessionals, tiny honesty. One real sentence. When someone asks how you are, try something like, honestly, I've been a little isolated lately. Just that, a single crack in the armor. A small signal that says, you can meet the real me here, because closeness doesn't start with big vulnerability, it starts with permission. Third, choose one small bridge and cross it even when you feel weird. Send the text first one time. Invite someone for coffee even if your brain says it's pathetic. Follow up once. Not forever. Not chasing. Not begging. Just proof to your nervous system that you can initiate and survive the outcome. Because the goal isn't to collect people, the goal is to rebuild your trust in connection. To teach your body that closeness isn't always a trap. And if it doesn't work with one person, that doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means the fit was wrong, or the timing was wrong, or they're also scared. Because they are. More than they admit. There's one last thing I want to say to you, quietly. If you're over 30 and you feel lonely, the part that hurts isn't just that you don't have friends, it's that you have so much inside you that has nowhere to go. No safe place to land, no place to be witnessed without performing. And you start to believe you're invisible. But you were never invisible. You were adapting. You were building a life that didn't depend on anyone else because, at some point, depending felt unsafe. And now you're at the stage where you don't want to just survive, you want to belong. That doesn't make you needy. That makes you human. So I want to ask you something, and I mean it in the most private way. What's one thing you've never told anyone about how lonely adulthood has felt? Write it in the comments. Not for advice, not for fixing, just to let it exist somewhere outside your body. And if this hit a little too close, the next video will go deeper into the kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, but from being around people and still feeling unseen.